Have you ever thought that after 62, your biggest worry should be how to enjoy your golden years, traveling, spending time with loved ones, or finally diving into those lifelong passions? You're not alone. Most of us picture retirement as a peaceful chapter, a well-earned reward for decades of hard work, but what if I told you that for many, the reality is far from this dream? That every year after 62, instead of feeling more secure, millions of people are actually getting poorer, slipping silently into financial traps that drain their savings, their peace of mind, and even their dignity. This isn't just about numbers or dollars and cents. It's about the very foundation of your freedom. Because when money runs low, stress rises. When savings dwindle, choices disappear. And what once promised comfort and security can quickly become a source of fear and uncertainty. Today, we're going to uncover the 5 most dangerous financial traps facing those over 62, traps that silently steal wealth and weaken independence. More importantly, I'll share with you how to avoid them, how to safeguard your future, and how to step into your later years with confidence and clarity. You see, financial wisdom in our senior years isn't just about surviving. It's about thriving. It's about embracing the freedom that comes with smart choices and thoughtful planning. And it's about reclaiming the peace that you deserve. So, if you're ready to take control of your financial destiny and protect the life you've worked so hard to build, let's begin. Meet Helen. At 65, Helen felt ready for retirement. She had worked hard, saved steadily, and imagined her future filled with calm mornings, family visits, and quiet afternoons with a good book. But what she didn't fully grasp was this simple truth: she might live longer than she planned. It's a beautiful thing, living longer. Advances in medicine, healthier lifestyles, and better care mean people are enjoying life well into their 80s, 90s, and beyond. But here's the catch: longevity comes with a financial challenge that few prepare for: the risk of outliving your savings. Imagine your bank account as a slowly leaking bucket. If you don't plug the holes, eventually, it empties. No matter how careful you are. If your money runs out before your life does, the consequences are profound. Suddenly, choices shrink. Suddenly, independence wavers. Studies show that many retirees underestimate their lifespan by nearly a decade. They plan for 15 or 20 years post-retirement but end up living 25 or even 30 years. This gap can turn a secure future into a financial nightmare, but don't despair. This risk is real, but it's not inevitable. Philosophically, life is unpredictable, an endless flow of surprises. Yet, within that uncertainty lies the power to prepare, to adapt, and to reclaim control. Helen's story took a turn when she consulted with a financial planner who helped her build a strategy centered on longevity. They explored options like annuities that provide guaranteed income for life, carefully planned withdrawals that preserve principal, and budgets that flex with changing needs. By embracing the reality of longevity, Helen transformed fear into empowerment. She no longer worried about running out of money because she planned as if she were going to live a long, full life. And she did. For you, the message is clear: don't let the years ahead catch you off guard. Plan for a future that may last decades longer than you imagine. Protect your nest egg not just for today, but for tomorrow, and all the tomorrows after that, because in the dance between time and money, it's the wise who lead, not the other way around. Picture this: you've carefully saved for decades, built a nest egg, and settled into a steady retirement income. You feel secure, confident. But year after year, the price of groceries creeps up. Your utility bills rise. Healthcare costs climb. Suddenly, that fixed income feels smaller, stretched thinner, like trying to fill a bucket with a leak you can't see. This is inflation. The silent thief that chips away at your purchasing power, year after year, often unnoticed until it's too late. For those over 62, inflation isn't just an abstract economic term. It's a daily reality that eats away at the comfort of fixed incomes and savings. What once could buy a hearty meal or a simple outing now barely covers essentials. But why does this happen? And more importantly, how can you fight back? Inflation reflects the inevitable truth that the value of money changes over time. It's a constant force, an economic tide that rises and falls, reshaping the landscape of our financial lives. Philosophically, inflation teaches us a deeper lesson: nothing is permanent. Just as seasons change, so do the rules of money and value. To survive and thrive, we must adapt, we must be flexible, and above all, we must anticipate the future. This means rethinking the way you handle your money. Simply keeping cash in a savings account might feel safe, but it risks losing value silently. Instead, consider strategies that help your wealth grow or at least keep pace with inflation. Diversification becomes your ally, investing in assets like stocks, real estate, or inflation-protected securities. These tools can shield your wealth, providing a buffer against rising prices. And don't forget the power of knowledge. Staying informed, seeking advice, and revisiting your financial plan regularly are crucial. Imagine inflation as an invisible enemy, but one you can outsmart. With awareness, with smart planning, you can protect your lifestyle, your comfort, and your freedom. So, as you look to the future, remember, inflation may be inevitable, but its impact on your life doesn't have to be. Imagine waking up one morning to an unexpected medical bill, a sum so large it shakes your sense of security. This is a reality many face after 62, a harsh reminder that healthcare costs are rising faster than almost any other expense. Medical bills are no longer just occasional troubles, they are one of the fastest growing financial burdens for seniors. From prescription drugs to specialist visits, from hospital stays to long-term care, the costs pile up, and often without warning. Let me tell you about Robert, a 68-year-old retired teacher. Robert always took pride in living a healthy lifestyle, walking daily, eating well, staying active. Yet, a sudden illness required hospitalization. And with it came thousands in out-of-pocket expenses that nearly drained his savings. This story is far too common. The reality is clear: as we age, our bodies demand more care, more attention, and more money. But there's a deeper truth here, a philosophical lesson wrapped within these rising costs. Our bodies are fragile temples that carry the wisdom of years. They remind us daily of our mortality, and with that reminder comes vulnerability. Yet, vulnerability can breed strength, not weakness, when met with preparation and mindfulness. So, how do we face this inevitable challenge? First, understand the importance of proactive healthcare. Prevention is the best medicine, not just for your body but for your finances. Regular checkups, healthy habits, and early interventions can reduce the risk of costly emergencies. Next, insurance isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. From Medicare supplements to long-term care policies, having the right coverage can protect you from devastating expenses. Finally, budgeting for medical costs isn't about fear, it's about respect for the journey your body has traveled. It's a way to honor yourself by planning ahead, ensuring that unexpected health issues won't derail your peace of mind. Rising healthcare costs are a reality, but they don't have to be a financial trap. With awareness, planning, and a mindset rooted in resilience, you can face these challenges head-on, and continue living your later years with dignity and freedom. Debt. Just the word alone can weigh heavily on anyone's mind. But for those over 62, carrying debt can feel like invisible chains, quietly restricting the freedom retirement promised. Imagine Maria, a 70-year-old widow who had planned to live comfortably on her pension and savings. Yet, credit card bills, a lingering mortgage, and medical loans kept piling up. Instead of enjoying her retirement, Maria found herself trapped in a cycle of payments, anxiety, and sleepless nights. This isn't just Maria's story. Increasingly, seniors are facing growing debt burdens, mortgages on homes they hope to have paid off, credit cards used to cover everyday expenses, personal loans taken out in times of emergency. But why does this happen? Often, the root cause is a mismatch between fixed income and rising costs. When expenses outpace income, borrowing feels like the only option, until those debts become a burden too heavy to bear. Debt at this stage in life is more than a financial problem. It's a psychological weight. It chips away at confidence, saps joy, and can even impact health. Philosophically, debt is a reminder of imbalance, between what we have and what we owe, between freedom and obligation. But it is also a call to action. Freedom isn't just about the absence of work, it's about the absence of worry. To reclaim that freedom, seniors must face debt with courage and clarity. So, how can you break free? First, confront your debt honestly. Know what you owe, to whom, and under what terms. Ignoring debt won't make it disappear. Second, seek professional guidance. Financial advisors and credit counselors can offer strategies to manage and reduce debt. Third, create a realistic repayment plan. Prioritize high-interest debts, negotiate terms, and cut unnecessary expenses. And lastly, embrace a mindset of renewal. Retirement is not a prison but a new chapter, one where financial peace is possible. By understanding and addressing debt, you take the first step in removing those invisible chains, restoring control and dignity to your golden years. As the years pass, many of us begin to think beyond ourselves, beyond the daily grind, beyond immediate worries. We start to wonder, what will I leave behind? What legacy will tell the story of my life? Estate and legacy planning isn't just about money or assets. It's about protecting what truly matters, your family, your values, your hard-earned life's work. Meet James and Linda, a couple in their early 70s who faced tough questions. They wanted to ensure their children were cared for, that their wishes were respected, and that their wealth would not become a source of conflict after they're gone. Without a clear plan, confusion and disputes often arise. Assets can get tied up in legal battles. Taxes can consume a large portion of an estate, and loved ones can be left feeling abandoned or uncertain. But with thoughtful estate planning, you gain more than just a legal document, you gain peace of mind. Philosophically, legacy planning is a final act of love. It's a way to communicate values, to provide security, and to create a lasting impact that transcends time. So, what does effective estate planning involve? First, it requires honesty and clarity. Knowing exactly what you own, how you want it distributed, and who will be responsible. Second, it means preparing documents like wills, trusts, powers of attorney, and healthcare directives, tools that ensure your wishes are honored. Third, it involves conversations, sometimes difficult, but necessary, with family and trusted advisors. Transparency here can prevent misunderstandings and preserve harmony. And finally, legacy isn't just financial. It's the lessons you share, the love you leave behind, and the memories you create. By protecting what matters, you secure not only your wealth but the relationships and values that define your life. Remember, a well-crafted legacy plan isn't just for the future, it enriches the present, giving you confidence and calm as you move forward. As we reach the close of this journey, it's clear that navigating the financial challenges after 62 is not just about numbers or strategies, it's about embracing wisdom, resilience, and foresight. You've learned about the hidden traps that can quietly drain your resources, the risk of outliving your savings, the stealthy bite of inflation, the growing costs of healthcare, the burden of debt, and the importance of planning your legacy with care. But more than facts and figures, you've discovered a profound truth. Financial security in your golden years is a reflection of the respect and love you have for yourself and those you hold dear. This journey is yours to own. It requires courage to face the realities, discipline to take control, and vision to plan wisely. Remember, it's never too late to take action. Whether you're just stepping into retirement or already walking its path, each step you take towards understanding and managing your finances is a step toward freedom. A freedom to live your days with dignity, peace, and joy. Philosophically, financial wisdom is a form of self-care, a way to honor your life's journey and protect your future. So, I invite you to pause, reflect, and then act. Start by reviewing your financial plans. Seek advice from trusted professionals. Talk openly with your loved ones about your goals and concerns. And if this message resonates with you, please subscribe to our channel for more insights, stories, and guidance designed specifically for seniors navigating the complex world of money and life. Your journey is unique, but you don't have to walk it alone. Together, let's build a future where age brings not anxiety, but empowerment. Thank you for listening. Stay wise, stay strong, and take care.